Enjoy live music? Want to support a local up-and-coming artist? The Vancouver Adapted Music Society wants you to join us on July 26th at the Blesson Spinal Cord Centre to celebrate Rachel Ransom's debut album, 6710. Rachel and her band will be performing the album live from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Tickets are by donation. For more information, visit the Vancouver Adapted Music Society on Facebook, at VAM Society on Instagram, or our website at www.vams.org. We hope to see you there.
Get on to the next question.
Sure.
You recently received the Disabled Women's Network Canada's National Hummingbird Award. What does this mean to you?
Well, I was really taken back by this. I think a lot had to do with my so coming back from dealing with a loss in my job. I had a serious decision to make when I left my last occupation. And when I left, after I've been with them for almost 9 years, I started dealing with a lot of health issues. So my mental health had taken a toll on me. I was depressed. I was sad that I had to come to a realization that it was time that I had to leave. And that my body was not able to keep up with the pace. I'm giving all this information because I want people to have a visual understanding of how it came about. So, I was talking about mental health. When I talk about that, mental health means a lot. And for me, I was dealing with like depression, and I was grieving also because I had made a decision that was not easy. And for those that do know me, they know I'm a very stubborn woman. I'm determined to stand and not give up. But I had to stand down and actually step back and realize, okay, you've been denying your own health, your body, your physical strain that you've been dealing with. And I live with a lot of chronic pain, and aside my scoliosis, osteoporosis, and other factors that contribute to pain. So after coming around from being depressed, I had decided, you know what? I always wanted to be in the disability movement, and I always wanted to be a disabled advocate and an activist. And so I got connected with this group in my community called Currico, Curiko, and they had this event. So because I was grieving and I was depressed, I was also living in social isolation. And a lot of people do that when they are like feeling withdrawn from society. Then I got involved with Disability Foundation and being on the board for them. And then I learned about other groups. And I said, I wanted to always be a disabled advocate. I actually tried to promote that idea with my previous employers. And they didn't seem to act on it too keenly. I said, oh, well, I'll get there eventually. Yeah. So what happened was I did eventually get hooked up with Dawn Canada. I met this beautiful woman from the island who's also Indigenous, who connected me with Dawn Canada. Last year now, it's been advocating. I got involved with different disability groups. One of them was BC, Inclusion BC.
Yeah.
And I went to Kelowna last summer. And for those who remember that horrific fire that we had in Kelowna, I was actually there. Crazy that
Oh,
was.
yeah.
There was a 4-day event that was held on self advocate. So I went to that. It was a conference
Mm-hmm.
and I learned so much there. I mean, I was hearing stories that just kind of really hit home for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this was people that were institutionalized for years
Mm-hmm.
in the mental institution um, survived. And I met this beautiful man who shared a story. And when I heard a story, I really was impacted by that. You know, not he was institutionalized in another way to where I was like bounced around to different foster homes
Mm-hmm.
and how it feels to be displaced in society.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have to deal with that, you learn to overcome that. You learn to use your voice.
Yeah.
Your voice is the power
Mm-hmm.
that you can articulate and get a message across to
Mm.
help those people in need or those people who haven't found their voice yet.
Yeah.
And I met a bunch of amazing women through
Mm-hmm.
Dawn Canada online. They're from all over Canada, different regions. And we all were talking about the importance of women with disability, how we face discrimination in
Mm.
all forms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we talk about intersectionality,
Mm.
we talk about gender based violence, we talk about our rights for us to access proper healthcare services,
Mm-hmm.
for us to stand for our cause about what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we need a brand new wheelchair, whether we need a new hearing aid, whether we need a sign language interpreter,
Mm-hmm.
or whether we need brailles for us to follow
Mm.
and understand what's going out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do exist. It's about being inclusive in society.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that, I think, is basically my work I had shown,
Mm.
demonstrating, going out there into the fields and
Mm.
helping and being a voice and
Mm-hmm.
trying to be the change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how I got the award.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine
I know
how.
it was a long piece.
Oh no, but it's so needed. And I'm really glad you talked about finding your voice too and using your voice throughout that journey and throughout that story. Um, because I imagine how receiving this award also affirms a lot of the work you do and that you are being noticed and recognized, and that folks like you who are doing the work and are walking the talk um, matter and that you are needed. So I forgot to congratulate you earlier, but really, this is such a huge thing for you and for the community. So honestly, well deserved, more than deserved, beyond. But that's really cool work. Um, and and it does sound like a lot. You put a lot of women in the forefront of what you do. Um, like a lot of what propels you to do the work is really for that is for equity all across the boards
Yeah,
and also accessibility for many of the folks who yeah don't have the the means to experience life just like a person without disabilities. Hmm.
Yeah, and I want like all women to realize it doesn't matter what race you're from.
Mm,
We all deserve to be treated with dignity,
mm,
and we also need what we need. If we need like some kind of special device, we
mm,
need that. If we need to feel safe,
mm,
if we need to start a life over again, then we need to do that.
mm,
We don't need to live in a less deserving way. Nobody should have to.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody deserves a chance. Everybody deserves to find their happiness
Mm,
and feel content in life.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our work is never done. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm continuously learning
Mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm.
I'm continuously reaching out to other women, trying
Mm,
to help other women that I see that are struggling
mm,
to get them involved, connected.
mm-hmm.
You know, um, yeah, there are some stories that I could talk about, but I don't, it's not my story,
Yeah.
but they're stories that I can see and hear.
Mm,
And I extend an olive branch to them.
mm,
I said, well, I'm here. Have you thought of this?
mm,
Here's some information for you to read.
mm,
Are you interested in this?
mm-hmm.
So any kind of approach that I find that are helpful,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is a start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Build your allies.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone out there that's listening, take a stand for your own cause.
Mm,
Don't be afraid. If you feel like you're alone, reach out.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of good people out there that will support you and walk with you in your journey. You're
Mm-hmm.
never alone.
Yeah. No, those are very, very important words to hear because many of the time we think to ourselves that we're the only ones carrying all of this weight, and we don't have to. You don't have to carry all of that weight by yourself. Um, you can share the load, or you can also just take it off and take a break and be with others, and then continue on. So absolutely. And in the whole spirit of learning, because you said that you love to continue to learn, and I'm sure there are other conferences that you look forward to being part of. I'm wondering, what lessons have you learned from your children and also your grandchild, that impact the work that you do and the way you show up?
Well, I think my kids are they learn a lot like about patience. They're still dealing with their stuff,
Mm,
and like, they're young adults. They have their own journey as well.
mm-hmm,
And as much as I love them, I also have to let them take their journey too,
mm,
and that's part of learning and that's part of life.
mm-hmm.
They know I'm always here when they need my support. My grandson, he last time I saw him was around Christmas time.
Mhm.
Um, he lives with his mom. His mom's a single mom.
Mm.
My son, his dad, lives. They don't really get to see each other too much. But
Mhm.
my grandson, no, he's very loved and that he's missed by his dad.
Mm.
And he knows that he has his other family here.
Mhm.
He he's actually turning 12,
Mm. Mhm.
and he'll make a decision when he's ready to
Yeah.
take a stand and say, you know what, I want to go hang out with Cook.
Mm.
I want to go hang out with my aunties and uncles.
Mhm.
Like his mom is going to have to deal with that.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and like in the indigenous families, there are a lot of like still a lot of family breakups, a lot of just sadness that goes on in the families.
Mm-hmm.
But that all had to do with like what had happened in our history.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll take time for us to regain our strength and our like in our families
Mm-hmm.
to get strong, to build that connection,
Mm-hmm.
to learn to grow and be in unity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of work in our Indigenous families we
Mm-hmm.
have. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of good families out there who are strengthening.
Mm-hmm.
But like every other families,
Mm-hmm.
there's always going to be some kind of dynamics.
Right.
There's always going to be some like families not in balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is no perfect family out there.
Yeah.
And if there is, well, I like to know who the perfect family is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I learned that a long time ago when I was a young mom.
Mm-hmm.
And the program we took years ago called Nobody's Perfect.
Mm.
It's a great program for young parents. I'm saying your family's better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And I learned that from going in foster care. Like I
Mm.
saw so many families, and
Yeah.
I had never, even like Christian families,
Mm.
I had never ever met. No, they try,
Mm.
but they can't. Everybody's got skeletons in their closet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. And I also hear that it's important for you to let your kids or your children um figure things out in their own pace and in their own space. And knowing that you're around when they need the extra support, I think I personally also align with such values of you figure you take your time to figure your life out, because at the end of the day you're your own person and I'm my own person. um and learning that even though our family is an extension of ourselves, we can't save everybody, or we can't do it all, and we can't be everything for everyone. Um, so yeah, I hear that in what you were sharing, um, and also how important it is to build some form of harmony within a family, and yeah, again, to create the that safe space where people can be themselves and at least feel welcomed and that they belong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and
And cherish the good memories always. And that's the
mm,
one thing I love about our family. We love to reminisce some of our good memories and some of our like embarrassing moments. And as parents, we're very good at doing that. We love
mm-hmm.
rehashing up some of the embarrassing moments, whether
Yeah.
you were like 4 years old or whatever, showing the
Mm-hmm.
cutest picture of you,
Mm-hmm.
to your girlfriend or wives, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, here we go again,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So these are like joy.
Mm-hmm.
Like my kids are all in their 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
I still see them as my little 3, 4 year olds. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, Mom, we're not that little kid anymore, but you still are in my
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. No, my mom definitely
It's like
sees
my
me.
grandson. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 I'm just very grateful. Like, women with disability on top of that, like, they learned that I was told I could never have kids when I
Mm.
was pregnant with my first child. He's 35.
Mm.
And, well, you know what? I had four of them.
Mm.
Because they figure, well, because of my disability, my scoliosis, my mobility, that
Mm.
they basically thought I cannot do it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I did have support
Mm.
from home care support. I had like homemakers.
Mm.
So I was very fortunate. I didn't have it every day. I had it like a couple of times a week,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I had a partner. So yeah, there were some days that were like, oh my gosh, how do I do this with four kids? And you know
Mm.
how they are, elementary age kids.
Mm-hmm.
They actually like to do that today. They'll still act like a bunch of little elementary kids all say, Mom, 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 kind of
Mm.
thing, just to
Mm.
drive me nuts. It's
Mm.
okay. You guys are like how old?
Mm.
They're reliving their childhood too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I always, honestly, I don't know. I see a lot of the people I love. I'm also just like, even strangers sometimes, I just see them as children living in adult bodies.
yeah,
And
yes,
and just trying to figure out how to how to keep up with the world and demands and yeah, and more responsibilities, nonetheless, which can get difficult to cope with. But at the end of the day, many of the ways in which we respond, especially when they come from hurt, that's the kid in us, and the kid in us still lives. And when you're talking about having your kids at home and them just playing around and all that that's like that's also a form of liveliness and and joy, as you put it. So that is also
yeah,
celebrated. So sometimes even with me and my partner, sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, do you want to just skip down the road instead of walking down the road?" And he's like, "Sure." And so we skip down the road and we look, we look funny because we're a bunch of 20-year-olds
yeah,
just skipping down the street, but at the same time, it's just like, the life can be whatever you want it to be,
yeah,
and joy can look like whatever you need it to look like, and you don't need to just express joy when you're having a fancy dinner with your friends or a soiree or whatever. It can look as simple as, looking at your shadows or whatever it looked like when you were growing up too. So, um, yeah, that was a that was a beautiful reminder. Um,
yeah.
yeah. And also, as we come to a close of our conversation today, I'm also just wondering if there's anything else that you'd like to share with the folks tuning in today.
I just want to say thank you, Tanya, for taking the time to taking an interest in hearing my story and interviewing me. And I want to encourage people and the listeners to get to know our organization,
Mm-hmm.
Disability Foundation, and there's so many resources we have,
Mm,
and I really think it's really important to connect to the disabled community.
mm,
And you'll be surprised what you'll learn. You'll
mm-hmm.
be surprised what Disability Foundation has to offer.
Mm,
And if you have any questions or want to chat more, learn about any of the groups that I talk about, feel free to send an email to Tanya or myself.
mm,
Um, and my email is all lowercase SandPronteau @gmail.com. No space, all lowercase. And yeah, again, it's been a pleasure to actually sit here and talk. And
mm-hmm.
don't let the disability of any kind hinder you in your life.
Mm,
Even if you're going to deal with ignorance out there, and I don't like saying that word, but there is a lot of people that don't understand and still have a lot to learn. Take the time to explain, like if you see someone gawking at you, and be mindful of how you addressed it. I had seen myself kind of like in one of my negative Nelly mode saying, you should be teaching your child not to stare. Instead, say hi to the child and I do that a lot, and then you'd be surprised what they say to you. They're just looking at you in wonderment, like, wow, I wonder what that person is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially when it comes from like a childlike wonder. I think it comes from just not knowing and or not seeing a person like that before. And it's just this curiosity
yeah,
that when it's
yeah,
approached with that sense of wonderment and also humility, that's a connection waiting to happen. And
yeah.
if we open ourselves to those moments, I think we'll be living in a more coherent, in a friendlier society for sure.
For sure. And then you're always going to deal with people that are not very educated in the disability movement or maybe misunderstood, mislabeled people with disabilities. I still have to, like, I have, like, people I know that are seniors who don't have a lot of knowledge in that. And kind of sad. You got to kind of educate them.
Yeah.
Like I had one recently said, "What? Yeah, you can have kids." I said, "Yes, I had 4 children." And they, "Wow, how did you do that?" Well, do you want to know how? But so I'm just being funny with them, right? They said, "No, no, not that way." But I said, "I know what you mean. I get it." So
Yeah. And I
it's
mean,
again, it's a change of dialogue, how you think, how you react.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean a lot of that too is because one narrative has been pushed out, and one narrative is the norm. And you can only, such as the narrative like, oh, you can only have children if you look a certain way. But really I'm guessing what you did through that conversation too is add another narrative to this person's life. And now they're just like, oh,
Hmm.
it can look, you know, um, mothers can look a whole array of ways, and they don't have to be living in a body without disabilities. So yes, as you shared earlier, I really am so thankful for this chance to sit here and talk with you and talk about the work that you've done. And I'm glad you gave your email out to folks so that they can reach out to you as well. Um, but yeah, it's such an amazing honor to be here and to be in this timeline with you. I'm just so inspired that not only did you find your voice and use your voice, but through everything that has happened and the circumstances that you've lived through, you're also using that to amplify the rest of the voices too, and to make space for everybody, honestly. So thank you, Sandra.
Yeah, well, thank you again, Tanya. It's been my pleasure, and I hope everybody have a beautiful long weekend. Victoria Day is coming up, and enjoy your summer. Everybody out there, stay cool
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
safe.
Be safe. Oh, thank you, Sandra.